What's going on, guys? It's Jordan Tackman, your friend in solar and in real estate and in business and so much more. Welcome. I'm super excited for this. Let me make sure all my equipment is up and running. Very good, very great. Today we have a very exciting situation. We have the Solar United Neighbors, and they are a great organization. They are a nonprofit company across the United States with the goal of helping people learn more about solar energy, which, if you don't know who I am a solar energy advocate. I put their link up at the top here for you guys. I'm a solar energy advocate, though. I'm a green designated realtor here in the state of Arizona. What that just basically means for you is that I've sold solar for just about right under 10 years. And I'm also a green realtor, which means I specialize in selling solar homes. This is very important to me, this information, because there's so much misinformation out there about selling your home with solar. There's so much misinformation about, should I go solar? It makes it so hard to sell. And I'll keep a lot of personal opinions out of it, because what we have here is they've been super generous to bring us into that fold, to patch us into that situation. So they've given. We're going to bring their Zoom into this. So any comments you have will go to me. We'll present that to them as needed. But they're super smart people. We're going to have a couple other green realtors up on the call. I believe one of them's from Colorado, one of them's from Ohio. We also have Annie. She's the VP of Community Impact that you want to look at. Got coffee on my mouth. Yeah, it's going to be super cool. So what I want to first say is, what is Solar United Solar Neighbors? Solar United Neighbors. Apologize, SUN. Such a cool acronym. It's so smart. Like I said, they're a nonprofit situation. What they do is, let's actually pull up their Arizona site here. So they're all about really information, understanding how solar works in your communities, whatever state you're in. They talk about net energy metering. They talk about utility changes that are happening. They talk about laws and regulations that are coming down the line. They're a nonprofit. They're really awesome. But one of the things they do is they set up something called a solar co-op, and it's actually been one of my goals to create an amazing solar co-op. And I've kind of created a small situation, kind of like a solar co-op, but it's not exactly set up the same way. So if you don't know what a solar co-op is, in a lot of states, what it is a community solar program. So basically everybody gets together, they pool together, say, hey, we need 30 homes, 40 homes, 100 homes, whatever it is, their goal is to go solar. And we're going to bunch you guys all together. We're going to get you guys the best quote possible. We're going to go to a solar installer. We're going to meet with them, and we're going to say, we have 100 homes, we have 30 homes, we have whatever the goal was, homes that want to go solar with you. What is the deal we can get on this? Let's bring that number down, because what ends up happening is a lot of these solar companies, they come through, right? They're door to door, they're independent reps, they're EPCs, they're dealers. There's a lot of different names for them, but basically they attach themselves to large installers, and they get to pick their pricing, and that's okay. That's business, right? You're a wholesaler, or you're a retailer, or whatever you want to call it. You're going to make your margin, you got to make your business, you have to grow, and I'm all about that. I've owned a solar company. I've worked with a lot of solar companies. I've helped their marketing. I've taught Solar 101. If you don't know what Solar 101 is, I highly recommend, first, if you don't have solar up on your roof and you're here to learn more about the situation, jump on solar101.online. There's a QR code there. You can just simply scan it. Very simple, very easy situation. But what you want to do is you want to take a look at that, learn more about solar. It's a really good thing. It's really awesome. But what a lot of these companies do is they come by, they'll knock on your door, they'll make a phone call, they'll advertise through the internet, whatever it is, and they'll be, hey, it's time to go solar. Let's sit down and do an energy consultation. And they'll sit with you, and it'll make a lot of sense, and it'll be super awesome. But what ends up happening is, you get different pricing than your neighbors. What a solar co-op does is says, hey, we all want the same price per watt. We all want the same type of system. We all want the same panels. We all want the same general idea of going solar. It's not going to be the same system size. That should very well be dependent on your energy usage. It's not going to be the same financing, so to speak, because some people might not qualify for certain things, while other people might. But this is solar ownership or solar leasing. Whatever it is that your situation is, they're going to get together, they're going to build a community. And so what I've done in my small community is I've created my own like small co-op. It's my referral network. So you can only go solar with me if you've been referred to me by one of my customers. I try to keep the community small because as a green realtor, as a solar energy consultant, as a business consultant, as a business owner, as an investor in real estate and in businesses, I don't have to rely on solar energy like a lot of people for my one income. I'm in a bunch of different industries. I have the Eco Gym Network as well, which is a huge group of industry giants that we get together and we basically are advocating for consumer, just kind of price. We're really just trying to get everybody the best situation that we can offer, but it's built a lot upon a referral network. And I'm not going to get too much into that because that's not what the point of any of this is. But the idea there is with these solar co-ops, let's get together, let's get the community together, and let's get the same level of solar, the same level of transparency, the same level of everything together, and let's make it make some sense. Let's make everyone across the board have the same situation, and it has to be done in blocks because, for example, if you're tuning in from Arizona and you have APS, Arizona Public Services, they're about to drop their solar buyback. We need everyone to jump together. If you're going to go solar, we need to get you in this last batch before they drop it another 10%. So right now it's at 8.46 cents a kilowatt hour. It's going to drop down very, very, very soon. And that's just the situation that we're looking at, and it's kind of a bummer. So we're going to do this, and we're going to help some people. But in addition to the buyback dropping, APS is raising their rates at the end of the year. So there's just this really big confusion that's happening. There's a lot of people sharing new utility bills with solar, and those numbers just because the situation is these people went solar 5, 6, 7 years ago when net energy metering existed. Net energy metering does not exist in APS territories. If you have SRP, you're not going to have the same situation that someone with APS has. If you're selling your home and you have a lease solar, you're not going to have the same situation that someone with an owned solar has. The same experiences don't qualify, don't really mash together. And so that's what we're doing today is we're going to talk about some of the misinformation out there. We're going to answer some questions. Like I said, this is a patched in Zoom from them. So the questions they're going to go to me, but I'm very highly confident that that our guests are going to be able to really probably answer all the basic questions. They've done this. They do this once or twice a year, so we're very blessed to have this situation. But if you're in, you're looking to go solar and you're looking to be part of like my little referral network co-op, I've opened it up to people. So if you do scan this code and you are looking for a situation, it's called Beat My Quote. It's essentially designed to say, hey, like I already know what solar I need. I talked to a solar energy professional. I've looked up your Solar 101 course. I understand how it all works out. It's really, really great. It's sexy. It's fantastic. I know what solar system I need. I understand my energy offset. I understand the buybacks. Just give me the best deal, man. And what I do is I work with local installers like Fusion Power. I work with giants like Sun Power, and we really try to figure out what's going to make the most sense for you too. But let's jump into this. They're about to start in about a minute. I wanted to start this up a little bit earlier, but I'm super, super stoked about this. I'm very excited, and I really hope that you guys do get some value out of this. I really hope it makes some sense. I really hope that you guys have some really, really good questions about this and you guys take away some good knowledge. But these guys are pros. I'm very excited for them. Covers kind of the situation there. So let's see. Ready? I have their code up top if you want to check out their website. That's super awesome.
Meantime, if you want to drop in the chat where you're logging in from, and how long you've known about Solar United Neighbors, I'd love to hear.
I'm super excited, guys.
To log on in.
I love those pictures.
Those are cute.
Yes, we've gotten some really awesome new ones over the last couple of years. Now that we're going out and taking homeowner photos again, and it's been great to get some from our Puerto Rico program as well. So.
Oh, great!
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we will get on started. So welcome this evening. This is our How to Sell Your Solar Home webinar. We're joined by some lovely volunteers that a couple you'll recognize from last year if you logged in during our Selling Your Solar Home webinar last year, and then some new faces as well. So we'll go through just a couple of slides and then we'll get started. We want to leave plenty of time for questions for you all. So on to logistics. We welcome questions. We want questions. We encourage you to ask questions. You can use the Q&A feature in the Zoom platform to ask questions, and we'll get to as many as possible. And if you want to use the chat, use it for conversation with other attendees. It's hard to monitor both to answer questions, so definitely use that Q&A feature to ask questions. And then you will get a follow-up email, if not tomorrow, then definitely the day after, with the materials. So they're Selling Your Solar Home Guide and any other links that we talk about this evening, as well as the recording of the webinar. So you don't have to worry about taking notes or remembering everything. You will get it in your email. And so just our agenda for this evening, it's very, very simple. We're going to go through intros. I'll introduce myself as well as our panelists. And then each one of them will go through their story and sort of their perspective on selling your solar home, what's the value of your solar home, and what their experience is in the field. And then we'll open it up for you all to ask questions. So definitely feel free to ask while they're speaking. But if you want to save your question until the end, that's fine too. So I will stop sharing my screen and get us started. So before I hand it over to Catherine, my name is Annie Wolf. I am the VP of Community Impact here at Solar United Neighbors. So I work with our events programming and volunteer programming, as well as our energy equity and inclusion program. So we are excited to have you all here this evening. Catherine, I'll hand it over to you for an intro.
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine Hope Cunningham. I am a realtor and solar consultant here in Columbus, Ohio, sunny Columbus, Ohio. I apologize. I only have about half a voice tonight. I have COVID right now, and I'm going to stay kind of off screen if you don't mind. The picture is prettier than the real thing. I promise you that. It's been mercifully mild, and I'm just glad to be able to be here. So thrilled to be joined by another solar realtor and a solar homeowner. And I am going to keep my comments tonight brief, and my voice just won't last that long. But I do have some nuggets of wisdom I do want to share, and I'm always happy to answer questions. So I want to point you to, first thing I want to do is point you to a resource that I want you to be able to call upon over and over again. And that is called the NAR Sustainability Report. That's the NAR Sustainability Report, which stands for the National Association of Realtors Association, their sustainability report. Which they put out once a year in late spring. It's usually around Earth Day, but I don't think it necessarily is on the same day or even week as Earth Day. But it gives really good information about consumer attitudes towards solar, and the brokers and realtors statistics. And what's great about that is that it breaks it down by geographic area, because one geographic area's solar availability and also consumption may be different than a different area of the United States. And so that's great. Thank you so much for putting that in the chat. So I appreciate that. It is a multi-page PDF. And not everything is going to be applicable to what we're talking about today, because it also talks about wind and I think even geothermal. But some great statistics there. And if you have an HOA who has questions about the value of your solar system, and you need some statistics that are not biased in any way by the solar industry, go ahead and share that with your HOA and pretty much anyone who is interested. As a realtor, my best advice to you as a solar homeowner is that when you go to sell your home, have all of your solar FAQs answered up front in the MLS in a single one-page document that has everyone's questions answered, because a lot of the non-solar consumers, the ones that aren't really educated, are going to ask a million questions, right? So you're going to have a lot of phone calls, and not you, but it's going to have a lot of phone calls. And so I do recommend that you have the specs of the system up there. Recommend that you have the average electric bill, as well as the lowest and highest electric bill, because they're going to ask all those questions. Let's see what other things that I would recommend that you put up there. On one of my listings, I put that the seller, what the sellers paid for it and what year. So that's, I think, helpful information for them. I think someone will talk later about PV value. PV stands for photovoltaic, but I'm going to let someone else talk about that because my voice just can't handle it. So I would also recommend that if you own your system, that you make it clear on that PDF that the system is owned and not leased. And I'm going to repeat that because it's so important. I'm going to recommend that you make sure that the buyers know that the system is owned and not leased, because that's very important. And in my case, I always let them know that the sellers are going to pay, if there is a loan associated with that solar, that the sellers are going to pay off that loan upon closing, so that there's no strings attached, there's no things that are going to disrupt the transaction, that it's going to be a very, very clean transaction. So, there's a question about, does solar add value? We're going to probably talk a little bit about that tonight. And I want to tell you two stories. One is a story of incredible success, and the other is a story of caution. It's a cautionary tale. And so in January of 2022, I listed a home here in Gahanna, I guess it was in Gahanna, here in Columbus, Ohio, for those of you who don't know where Gahanna is. And January, what a terrible time to list a solar home, right? Worst possible time of the year. It's winter, it's cold, it's icy, right? And we ended up having, I think it was 8 offers, all of which were above list and very, very strong terms. And they sold it very quickly in like 3 days. And it was an amazing transaction. No problems with the solar whatsoever. The buyers were thrilled. They were going to have low electric bills, and it was just amazing all around. That was at the height of low interest rates. Do y'all remember this? Like back in January 2022, when interest rates were so incredibly low and very competitive, and everybody was beating each other up trying to get in contract before the interest rates went up. Well, that was January. So I had no trouble at all selling a solar home in January, right? Fast forward, what is it, 6 months, something like that? June of 2022, I had to sell my own solar home. And unfortunately, it was listed a week after the largest interest rate jump since I think it was 1989 or something like that, some ridiculous amount of time. Huge interest rate jump. And all of a sudden the buyers got scared. A lot of the buyers went away. And although I did sell my home pretty quickly, and the buyer specifically wanted solar, so it found me my buyer. I cannot say, I didn't have, I had maybe 2 or 3 offers, and that was the max, right? So I didn't quite get the same performance. And the lesson that I want you all to know and understand is that, at least the lesson that I'm walking away from that, is that interest rates affect property value more than the presence or absence of green features. So it's a really good thing to pay attention to the Fed, and know that when they meet, sometimes interest rates do change. They can go up or down. When you are listing your home, it's a great thing to start paying attention to that. That's a little chunk of wisdom, and I'd be more than happy to circle back and say more later, but I'm going to turn it over for now.
Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate the intro. Grace, I'll hand it over to you to tell your solar story.
Sure. Hi, I'm Grace Alex. I'm also in Columbus, Ohio. And my husband and I installed solar on our former home, our house that we sold in October 2020. And then we sold that house in May 2022, right before those interest rates went up. So we were very lucky to get in right at the final moment with closing.
Congratulations. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So our experience was wonderful. We went through Solar United Neighbors for a co-op that first time. And now here we are again on our second home and also doing the co-op. So we're actually getting our panels installed in 2 weeks. So we're very excited to get that happening just right here at the height of summer, so we can see some of this capture. So that'll be great. I don't know that I could say necessarily that having solar on our former home that we sold had a huge impact on the selling process, but we certainly got more than what we invested back in a return. And I would say that the fact that we had an agent who also went through the Solar United Neighbors Co-op and had solar on her own home certainly helped a lot, because she was able to help really educate the buyer's real estate agent and really walk the buyers through the whole process as well. They were not very educated or informed. In Ohio right now, we don't have a ton of incentives for going solar currently. So I think it's just, it stalled a little bit as far as gaining in popularity. But here we are really seeing impacts of climate change and really starting to see these impacts here in Central Ohio even. So I do think that we'll start seeing a lot more folks going solar. And then when we bought our current house as well, it really was not an option to search for solar. We were looking to downsize significantly. So we just knew going into it, we would participate in another solar co-op, and here we are. So very excited to get the installation rolling.
Thanks, Grace. I always love to hear a double co-op success story.
That's right. I think just see a pop-up about net metering, and in Ohio we do have net metering as an option. So basically just a very general, not scientific explanation of how that works for us here in Central Ohio is when we are creating more power than what our house can use, we feed back into the grid, and basically our electric company will credit our account whatever amount we've fed the grid and helped be, a solar producer for them. We don't have like rebates that we get, and we don't get a refund, but we do get a credit on our electricity bill, and it carries forward quarter to quarter, month to month. So essentially it'll just carry forward, and you may not have an electric bill for a while if you're creating more than you can use. But we do have caps here in Ohio. You can only install up to 120% of your usage. But At our home, we didn't have insulation in our new house beforehand. It's a home built in 1955. So it didn't have any insulation, and it was probably running a lot more electricity than where we are now, since we've made some newer improvements. So we're hoping to see some decent net metering turn out for us here.
Thanks for grabbing that question. Appreciate
Sure.
it. Awesome. And definitely keep the questions coming. There's some good ones in here. So Janelle, I will turn it over to you.
Unmute. There we go. Hello, everyone. I am in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I am a realtor and educator out here. I also do a lot of renewable energy advising and consulting with a lot of my clients and home builders in the Northern Colorado area. I created, wrote, and teach the only CE course which is continuing education course for realtors in the state. So I travel around to different boards and brokerages, trying to teach as many people as I can about how to handle solar in your real estate transaction. I'm also, when Sun came to Colorado, I was an advisory member for the very first, well, I'm still an advisory member, but we did the very first co-op up here in Fort Collins in the state of Colorado, because the city offered a really great grant to get us started. And we got to sit on my back patio doing the very first analysis of all of the RFPs. So it was really fun to be part of that for the first one in the state. And I think we're up at number 11 or 12 now after 2019. So it's been pretty amazing, and it's definitely caught on like wildfire. And it's amazing because it has definitely propelled the number of homes that have solar in the state. So 2013, 2014, we were really starting to see a little bit of an uptick in the number of homes in the market that had it. And now, after Solar United Neighbors is in the state, plus a lot of our utility companies have really good net metering rates and programs, as well as time of day rates, which changes your usage and how you sort of plan to put the solar on your home, where it used to be more east facing because we would get afternoon thunderstorms. The time of day has created that to be more west facing because you're wanting to take advantage of selling back at that quadruple rate. And so with all of that, and because our utility companies are in the northern area, almost all co-ops themselves. So we have nonprofit utility companies, which is unheard of and a complete unicorn, amazing rainbow story for here. So it really is the perfect climate and situation to have solar. So it's pretty big now. We went from probably in 2016, 17 to having less than 1% of homes have solar to now we're almost at 10%. So you're looking down a street and you're going to see 1 in 10 houses have solar. And that's just, it means that as an agent and a potential buyer and a potential seller, you're coming across it a lot. And the education that I found has really been the key to make sure that the whole transaction works, that you can get some value for it. Of course, unlike Grace and Catherine, I'm in Colorado, and it's definitely appealing here. You have a lot more people that are interested and want to ask questions. You have a climate that's really perfect for it in the winter and the summer. And you have the utility companies that support it and encourage it. So, depending on where you are in the country, that may or may not be your situation. And going solar may or may not make sense based on all of those factors. But if you're in Colorado, it definitely makes sense. And for a lot of other places, it does too. And I think that's where Sun has been really amazing with helping people kind of collaborate and come together and analyze those numbers and figure out how you can go solar and make, all of the dollars and cents actually make sense for you.
We have lots and lots of questions going on in the chat today. So let's see. Let's see. I think Gil asked our first question. If you dealt with a situation where somebody has a leased solar system and the new owner doesn't actually want the system, how that works, and navigating that process.
I think this would be a really good time to talk about leases versus owning. Solar United Neighbors, for the people that are tuning in, you've most likely been well educated on what makes the most sense for a residential property. And it makes 1,000,000 times more sense to own your system than to lease it. I can see where the leases make a lot of sense if you have a commercial property, because you have different write-offs and tax laws that help support that. But as far as home ownership goes, you really want to own the system because you're able to take advantage of the additional appraised value when you go to sell your home. If it's a leased system, that's considered a third party, and it cannot be a value added to your appraisal. So even if that might make a difference to a buyer wanting to buy your home, if it can't be added to the appraisal and you have to have an appraisal, you're not getting any value for it. So you have to really have a buyer that's willing to take that on. With a lease, a buyer also has to qualify to take over those lease payments through that lease company. Most of the time, if you're doing a mortgage, you're going to probably qualify to take that over anyway. But I have seen multiple times here, because Solar City used to be that kind of, it was the catalyst to starting a lot of solar here in 2012, 2013. And so there are a lot of older, there's, a lot of lease systems that are now about 10 years old. And when you look at those, they have escalated rates for that 20 years of the lease, which are now above what our actual utility rates are. And you have pretty high pricing. I mean, we're in Fort Collins. It's not an inexpensive place to live. And I see a lot of lenders kind of scrambling at the last minute when they find out that there's a lease that has to be transferred, and that client can't afford another $110 payment. And so the whole deal falls apart. So not only do you have to qualify for that payment through the lease company, but you have to also make sure that your loan will go through for purchasing. And then you've got to talk a buyer into taking over a lease that may or may not work for their family, and for their finances, and maybe well above the escalation of the actual utility rates. So putting all of that aside, which are not good things, the lease company also usually takes advantage of your net metering or any renewable energy credits. So those are things that they get because they're the owners of that system, not the homeowner. So I'm not a lease advocate. I like owning the systems. There are a lot of national loan programs where those loans are assumable by the buyer if they're willing to do so. I usually advise my clients, let's just calculate if we're going to get an additional value when you're selling your home and we can prove it for an appraisal, let's just pay that off at closing, because now the buyer is paying a premium for the system. And so then you're not trying to transfer anything over. The state of Colorado Energy Office has an amazing called a Renew loan that they started up in 2017, I believe it was, to create a green loan program throughout the state. And some of the credit unions here offer that. So the interest rates are really low. The terms are great. Those are not assumable. So those do need to be paid off at closing. But just sort of going into, before you decide on solar, knowing what you want to do. Do you want to lease it? Do you want to buy it? I would say buy it if you have that choice. If you already have a lease and you're trying to now transfer it, you just need to get all your ducks in a row. Most lease companies want 2 weeks advance notice for you to put in all of those transfer docs for the buyer. Make all of that super transparent when you're marketing the house so that they know what that escalation amount is over the next 20 years of the lease. And if it is advantageous on your utility bills, use that and try to use what you are saving in your utility bills as an additional marketing piece so that people can see, okay, there's benefit in this. And even if there's not benefit in it, I'm not paying any more. I'm able to just use solar for the energy that I use, and I'm okay with that.
Thanks, Janelle. I think there was one, somebody marked it. Catherine, let's turn it over to you. So is getting insurance a problem for a solar home, and do buyers ask about it? What's been your...
Yeah, it's funny. I meant to type that. I typed an answer and then hit the wrong button, but I'll answer it live. So getting insurance on the solar is not a problem. Okay, it's just homeowners insurance, just like any other. When we did solar on our home way back in, I think it was 2017, we called our insurance company, wanted to add the solar and also a recently renovated kitchen onto our insurance. Well, what we discovered is that it had been a good long time since we had increased the value of the policy, and so we increased the value of the policy rather significantly, more than what just the value of the solar and the kitchen was. And that increase in our policy cost us an extra, I think it was $70 a year, so it was really negligible, right? So that included the solar, the kitchen, plus the overall increase, because we hadn't done that in, I think it was 9 years at that point. So, no, it's not hard to get insurance. Yes, it is very easy. Yes, it is very extremely manageably priced. So, super easy.
Yes, the exception would be Florida. Florida is definitely where we have some challenges. So if anybody's dealing with that situation specifically, reach out to our Florida team at FLteam@solarunitedneighbors.org, and they'd be happy to work with you on that. But in the rest of the country, it's generally pretty easy. So this, I think, probably could be either Grace, Janelle, Catherine, any of you. So what are some FAQs should a solar seller prepare for? This question is based in California, but I think the answers can be applicable everywhere. So.
Grace, do you want to take it since you sold yours? What worked and what didn't?
We actually didn't prepare any FAQs. We just happened to list a really fantastic time, quite honestly. But we did give a little demo on how to use the app. So our solar installer provides you with an app, and you can track the amount of power you're producing, and it converts it into like the number of trees and the amount of CO2 emissions that it's saved. And our prospective buyers got a real kick out of the number of trees that it converted to. So that's just purely anecdotal, and we really didn't prepare anything, but it just so happened to be the perfect storm for us. So I think, like Catherine advised earlier, putting together like a one-pager would be certainly an excellent idea. And then we had connected the buyers ultimately once they closed with our installer, because our installer was so helpful. Anytime we changed our Wi-Fi password and forgot about it, and our installers called us up and said, hey, we're not seeing your production. You think maybe you changed your password or something? And we had. So they came back out and reprogrammed it and everything, and got us back up online so that everybody could keep tracking, how much we were producing and everything. But other than that, we really didn't do much. So I don't think I can speak to that from a personal perspective at all, but it was a very simple process for us.
Well, and I think that with the three of us here on the panel, I think the most important piece of information is that there are partners when you go to sell your house that are educated. So just know that we're out there, and you need to find an agent that knows how to handle solar in real estate, has hopefully taken some classes where they've learned how to do that. And if you get a great listing agent that knows, you can just sit back, and she should be, or he should be asking you, I need all of your solar documentation so that I can market it. I need to be able to take pictures when I'm doing the house so I can add those to the slide deck and the MLS. I need your utility bills so we can prove how awesome this is. We need to know whether there's still an existing loan so that I can do a new net sheet for you. And then we also have control over the appraisal process. And that's really the sticking point for a lot of this is, you market it well, you get a buyer that's willing to pay the premium, they know the value of the seller, and then you have the house appraised and there's nothing. and now you're fighting over that. So knowing that an educated agent can help advocate for that appraisal process too, because we control, this is what I teach in my classes. We have the lockbox code, so we can give it out or we cannot. And they have to call me for that, and I can vet their qualifications. So there's a process to that. I don't think we want to necessarily get into the weeds here with that part, but it's kind of just a couple of steps. Whenever somebody submits an offer, I call their lender. I say, have you ever asked for a specialized appraiser, because this house has solar, and so we need somebody that knows how to handle that and have hopefully been familiar with the valuation tools. And so then they can put out that request, and then hopefully an appraiser actually accepts it. Who knows what they're doing, but as soon as somebody accepts it, they call the listing agent to get access to the property, and that's where we can kind of control that access. It doesn't always work. We try, but it doesn't always work, because even in a state like this, it's amazing the number of people I'll have in my classes that say they've never gotten a value for solar when they've sold houses. And there's a lot of people in other counties in the state that say that have, and this has happened in the last year, they've told their clients to take the solar off before they try to sell their house because they're not going to be able to sell it. And this is in Colorado, where it makes a lot of sense. So there's so much misinformation and non-information out there that people don't know how to navigate this. And so knowing that if you do start with that listing agent that understands it, that's who, just like Grace was saying, that's who then you're relying on to educate every buyer and buyer's agent that comes through your door. And if the more information you provide and the easier you make it and the better you market it so that you show what value it does give, and take away all of those unknowns, lots and lots of buyers go, I don't want a bunch of holes in my roof. And these are non-issues. It's very rare that causes problems. And so just being able to answer all of those questions and know what those answers are makes everything so much smoother. And it makes a buyer that might just have fallen in love with your house just because of everything else about your house, not with just the solar, then they're not scared of the solar part and they keep moving forward. So that's really, for me, the biggest thing to try to put out there is that as consumers, it's our job to pick the partners we work with. And the more we ask for that education, the more the industry is going to step up and get the education.
I love it. Thanks, Janelle. Actually, sort of along those lines, Peggy asked how you find a solar savvy realtor. And then we also have a question, if there's actual data compiled about costs and benefits for the average homeowner when it comes to solar. So it seems like the industry is like on the cusp of a lot of that.
Yeah. And Catherine mentioning the, NAR sustainability report, it's showing that the National Association of Realtors is finally paying attention to a lot of sustainability, energy efficiency in homes, kind of what our entire national home stock looks like for now and for the future. But we're still really behind as an industry. And so it's pretty rare to find people that know how to do this. But NAR does have a program that's called the Green Designation. And you can find, they do a really good job of educating people on how to sell solar within that. It also talks about a lot of other energy efficiency, because most of the time, I know I have a whole house fan. I have upgraded all of my insulation. I've upgraded my windows. I have xeriscaping in my landscape. I have a Rockio water monitor on my landscape. People that go solar often do a lot of other things that should be adding some amazing, marketable items to their homes. So it does teach you about those things as well. And there is a database. If you go to NAR, I'll have to find the exact link, but it's the Green Designation, and there's a database of who has that in your area. I would also just ask around. If you go to Solar United Neighbors. I bet you several of those, or go to some of the Facebook pages and find, just start asking around who had an agent that was awesome about this and knew what they were doing, and just start calling around. And then the biggest thing is just interview people. So when you do find some names, don't just assume that they know what they're doing. Ask them some questions. And I imagine at some point we'll get to this, but I'm going to mention it now. Catherine brought it up earlier. So there is a valuation tool to find out what your solar array adds to your home value. And the website is pvvalue.com. So that's pvvalue.com. Most agents that have taken the classes and know how to do it will create these reports for you. And what you're basically doing as a homeowner is you're looking around the rest of your neighborhood going, okay, houses here look like they're all selling for about 500. And then you look at what that comparable amount is. Let's say it's 500. And then you go to your pvvalue.com and you enter in all of your actual system details, which takes into account the overall size, your utility rates, the age, the warranty, and your tilt, your azimuth, your longitude. It makes it a very standardized tool to be able to use across the entire country. And then you get that contributory value, which is what we call it when you can add something on to your comparable value. And that's the premium you should be able to get when you're selling your house. And those are the numbers that you can provide to an appraiser to be able to add to that bottom line, which makes sure that your loan actually goes through and your buyer gets to buy your house. But so ask them, do they know about that? Do they know about marketing it? Do they know how to put together your utility bills and kind of show all of the benefits of having the system? And then do they know how to vet an appraiser if they're trying to get there? And this works in a lot of places in the country. It does not work everywhere. You might find that you're in an area where there isn't a single educated person there. But again, that's where I hit my drum of ask for it. The more we keep asking for it as consumers, the more the industry is going, people want this. People want us to have this education. So I guess I'll go take it.
No, that's great. And thank you for doing your part for sure with developing out your class and talking the talk, in addition to being a solar owner. So let's see, Michael had some questions, and one was related to your intro, Catherine, was, again, about sort of the leasing issue, if there's a financing on the home or financing on the solar, and how that works for then the new buyer. And, from not personal experience, but anecdotal that I've heard, I know it's different sort of for every situation, but if you don't mind diving into that a little bit more.
Sure. So it's not so much a leasing question, right? Because just because you have a solar loan does not necessarily mean it is leased. What it means is that you own a system that is financed. And if you have any balance remaining on that loan at the time of the sale, you can do one of two things. You can either pay it off with the proceeds of the home, or you can transfer the balance of that loan to the future buyer, which I highly, highly, highly recommend not doing. Don't do that. There are very few buyers that want that, that extra responsibility. You are going to turn off buyers by asking future buyers to take over your loan. Okay. So what you're doing is you're reducing your buyer pool. The larger buyer pool you have, the more competitive bidding you're going to have. That naturally, the competitive bidding process naturally boosts the property value of your home. So don't expect your buyers to take over your loan. So that is most definitely different than a lease. Of course, Janelle already mentioned, we don't recommend, leasing a solar. Obviously, it's fine if you have a leased system, and the home will probably sell, but it does create some, extra layers of administrivia that are difficult to work through, or challenging, I would say. Not necessarily difficult, but it's certainly challenging.
Thanks. Then how about batteries? Have you all had experience with, whether the batteries are, somebody's having somebody adds a battery, if that's adding value to their home, is that sort of a non-issue, especially, with net metering? How's that been? How's that been working?
In our market, there have been an increase in the number of batteries coming on, but it's mostly just for homeowners wanting to be able to charge their cars at night and not use the grid at all. But with the way that we have such great net metering benefits and our time of day usage, it makes a lot more sense. I've an electric car in the garage. I'm selling back all of my sun production between 2 and 7 p.m. in the summer at 27 cents a kilowatt hour. And at night, I'm using it at 7. So I would rather sell back my excess during the day and then use that lower overnight rate to charge my car. If I were storing what was extra, I would be losing back on that net metering benefit. However, you go just a little bit. Fort Collins is on the Front Range, so we're about an hour north of Denver, but we are not in the mountains. We get good snow, but then it melts. All of our power lines are buried, so we don't have a lot of utility outages. But you just go up the hill into the Rocky Mountains a little bit, and you have a lot of people that need to have more off-grid capabilities for when systems go down. So I definitely see people just in the mountains right outside of town doing a lot more battery storage. And I've heard that in a lot, and maybe Grace and Catherine can talk about this in their markets too, a lot of other states where you don't have great net metering benefits, the battery storage makes a big difference because you can use that storage anytime and you're able to just collect what you produce and try to not be using it off the grid as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely ditto what Janelle said. I have an electric car that charges once a week at night as well. But again, I'm taking advantage of the net metering aspect in Ohio. We don't have very many power outages in central Ohio in general. So yeah, we didn't do batteries at our last place, and we're not doing them here either.
So, and yeah, batteries help a lot in areas where there are lots of power outages, right? So if you're in an area with a lot of power outages, or if you are in an all electric home and it is your only source of heat, and you happen to live in a place like Columbus where we, have pretty harsh winters, so batteries can be a thing. Do they add value? I'm just going to default to the answer I gave before, and that is interest rates rising and lowering have more to do with property value than the absence or presence of green features. And so, NAR sustainability report tells us that 63% of consumers do prefer energy efficient green features. That's not to say that it's in any given, if interest rates go up, a full percent overnight, that you're going to get, dollar for dollar everything back. So it really just is a variable question, or the answer is variable. So it's the same answer for batteries as it is with solar, I think.
There's a question way back in the chat about the aesthetics of solar panels and whether or not things change if you can see the panels, or they're, right in front, or they're a little bit more hidden. Grace, was that a conversation when you were looking at selling your home, or any, was your buyer or any other buyers commenting about how the panels look?
So funny enough, on our old home, our, solar home we sold, you couldn't see the solar panels from the road or from the street at all. You could only see them from the back of the home, and the home had more than 3 acres behind. So you couldn't even see them. So I think, honestly, for me, I love when I drive down the street and see solar panels. I get really excited and I'm like, oh my gosh, a neighbor went solar, yay. Somebody came over to our side. But yeah, no, for us, it really wasn't a factor. But I can say, since you couldn't see the solar panels from the street or visibly, I wonder if maybe people driving by that saw the home for sale just didn't know that was a factor, and maybe it did play into, I don't know, we'll never know with our homes that we sold, but yeah, they weren't visible, so it didn't really come up.
Janelle, have you had that conversation with any of your clients?
Yeah, I have. And it's funny because I have a lot of, pretty green friends too, that are like, well, if they just wouldn't be on the front of my house, I would do it. I wish my house didn't face south. And it does crack me up. I am not the person to ask if they are aesthetically pleasing or not, because I love them. And it just like what Grace was saying, I live on a bike path, and I walk out my bike path here, and it's a 2-mile loop, and there are now 17 that I can see on that loop. And it's like this personal win for me every time I see more coming on. And so I think they're great, but I know that there are people that just don't like it. I don't think I've ever heard anybody put solar on their house and not end up liking it afterwards. It's usually just the hump to get over of somebody that hasn't put solar on and then eventually does it. But I hear it, people do say, I wish they didn't look like that. And there's a couple of neighborhoods here that have done the Tesla shingles and some of the more integrated systems. We have a lot of hailstorms here, and regular panels hold up to the hailstorms incredibly well, amazingly well. And the shingles just don't, they're a little too flexible. And then it becomes kind of some insurance issues, because those roofs have to be removed and replaced, and they're a lot more expensive than just taking the panels down that aren't damaged and putting them back up. So those haven't really caught on much here. And I think now that they haven't caught on, people are okay again going with just the big regular 2x3 panels.
Someone in the chat commented that they look like iPhones, and so
yeah, I know. I saw that when you wrote that, and I totally agree. I'm like, we use these laptops and computers, and we drive electric cars. Like, just get over it. Put the solar on your house.
It's good. I mean, there are definitely, I think that, it really comes into play, I think, with historic houses and,
right.
and HOAs. That's definitely where we see fights for sure. No question. So this next question, the outstanding question in the Q&A, is about solar renewable energy credits. And is that something that, I don't think is that something that you've had experience with, Janelle or Catherine, with selling?
A little bit. It just depends on the utility company. Our utility company doesn't do them in the same traditional way. We basically are entitled to them, and it's part of our net metering sort of package. But Excel Energy does renewable energy credits, and then you have a lot of opportunities to buy and sell renewable energy credits when you're a commercial building or a retail or something like that, where we also have some community solar that you can buy into and sort of give and take from that. But it's not something that factors in much in my clients' energy use and benefits, just because we're doing mostly just the net metering. But if you're selling in a couple of other counties, Weld County, down in Broomfield, you're doing more renewable energy credits and trying to calculate that out, and then finding out if it is a lease, is that lease company keeping those, or are they giving them to you?
Right. And so my understanding too is that if you sold a house with a panel that's fully paid off, you wouldn't actually be able to keep those SRECs. They would go with the system themselves. Yeah, the system itself. Right. That's all of our open questions on the Q&A. I love that the chat has been going crazy. So although I'm not surprised. Let's see. Is there anything? I'm just trying to make sure that I haven't missed it.
While you're reading, can I talk a little bit about SRECs and what they are? I'm sorry, Janelle, did you already answer that, what SRECs are and why they're important?
No, we didn't go into it, just what happens when you're selling.
Right. And so that would be solar renewable energy credits. And depending upon which state you live in, they may or may not be important to you, or they may or may not be important to you right now, because future changes in your leadership, your state leadership, may affect policy and the state's energy portfolio, which then affects solar energy renewable credits. So it's basically, SRECs are other entity's way of saying that your solar is on their portfolio, their energy portfolio, and they pay you for the privilege of doing that. And it can be very valuable. One thing that I have learned recently that I am abhorred by is that there are some door-to-door solar sales companies who are selling solar that have in the small print that although you own the solar, they own your SRECs and any future profits from your SRECs. So I obviously do not recommend buying your solar from any company that is going to claim your future SRECs. That's terrible. Right now they are worthless in Ohio, but with a change in administration, they may become worthy again. And so never give away your solar renewable energy credit profits, even if they are of little or no value right now. In other words, buy from a reputable solar place that will allow you to keep your renewable energy credits.
Yeah, and if you are, if this is just an informational purpose webinar for you and you are not yet a solar homeowner and have those questions, our help desk team can definitely help you sort those out and help you vet those proposals as they come through if you're not going through a co-op or there's not a co-op in your area. So our Go Solar team has lots of experience helping people compare proposals and make sure they're getting the deal that benefits them for sure. So thanks for that perspective. And let's see, I think we hit all of the questions that we have. Thank you all for your very lively questions and chats and connecting with everyone. Oh, let's see. It's possible to sell a solar array and hold on to the SRECs. So yeah, going into that a little bit. Catherine, you're answering that. So perfect. So thank you. If anyone has any other questions, I think we're good. Awesome. But yeah, so to the ladies up here, any last words before we close out? If not, that's okay.
I could just say that I was seeing kind of a lot of chat comments about, everybody's different state laws, and that is the issue with solar. And I'm sure Solar United Neighbors has a lot of fun navigating that into each state that they're in. But in the state of Colorado, HOAs can no longer say no to solar panels on your roof. And it used to be that they could. So they could say, nope, not in our neighborhood. Now they can't say that. They are given limited options to discuss the aesthetics of how they appear. So, but it's very hard for them to win those arguments. Also in the state of Colorado, solar is not allowed to be taxed on your property taxes. And actually seeing that in action is pretty difficult, because in me canvassing just about every state assessor, the county assessors in the state, none of them have an actual form to pull that value back out of your home assessment. So laws can be passed, but if they're not used and they're not followed through with, and there's no process, then you don't really get to see the forward momentum of that. And I think that's one of the amazing things about Solar United Neighbors is that we lobby, we get these things worked on, we talk about them, we try to put things in the state legislatures, we try to educate people, we try to make sure that we're all able to eventually get some benefits, and we get to be able to put solar on our house if it's something that makes sense for us. One other thing is I saw somebody say that they don't like community solar because it deforests their state. I live in a high desert. There are no forests to deforest here, but I get that. I think it depends on what your utility company is doing. Most of our community solar programs here are through our utility company because we have 100% renewable energy goal that we're working towards. And a lot of those community solar systems, or what the utility is trying to add kind of to our bank, are on tops of the university, on tops of the city buildings, on covered parking in Intel, HP, all of the tech companies that are here, and they want covered parking so that their cars don't get hailed on while they're at work. and we put solar panels on that whole car park. So they're definitely creative in other places to put the big arrays that can add to your entire grid. And it doesn't have to just be deforestation, but I get that. That wouldn't be my preference either.
Thanks, Janelle. I appreciate that. Any other last thoughts before we close out this evening?
Grace, do you want to say something before we're done?
I think the only thing I could say is that it was a great experience the first time we went solar, so much so we're going solar a second time. So proof's in the pudding on that one.
Definitely. We're excited to have you.
I do want to add a level of higher clarification on an earlier question. Someone asked if it was important to choose a solar competent listing agent. I typed the answer to that question so quickly. I want to add a little bit to that, and that is, if you can solar competent listing agent, certainly I would recommend it, right? They are going to, and there's many levels of solar competent. There's the people that have taken classes. There's the people, there are other people like me that there's people like Janelle who have developed the classes, right? There's people like me who are solar consultants, and I actually design systems as well. So there's lots of different levels of knowledge out there, and you can probably find one. It's hard to find, and somebody did ask, how do you find them? That's really, I have no good answer to that question. Maybe Janelle does. But if you can't find a solar competent agent, certainly you can find a competent agent, right? Somebody who is a responsible agent, who has a good track record of selling homes. And if you find that agent and you provide all the FAQs to them and they upload it to the MLS and make that very transparent, you can probably have a good transaction too. Of course, if you're in Central Ohio, we'd love for you to call me. And if you're not in Central Ohio or Colorado, I know that there's somebody out there probably who can help you. Janelle, do you have any idea where folks can find solar competent agents outside of Ohio and Colorado?
Yeah, we did answer it just a little bit ago, but the NAR green designation does have a database of who's taken those classes. And sometimes it also helps just to get involved with some of the solar groups in your own community. I'm a member of our NCREST, which is Colorado Renewable Energy Society. We have meetings once a month at a brewery and have a beer and listen to a speaker. And so that's a great place for people to ask questions of, hey, who do you know? And from Solar United Neighbors, being able to ask other people that have done the co-op with you. So I think there's a lot of power in networking and people that have gone through this and have some good suggestions about who you can reach out to. But the NAR green designation does have a national database, and that's at least a great place to start.
Great advice. And for the 12 states that Solar United Neighbors operates in, we do have Facebook groups and listservs for almost every one of those states, and that's a great place to pick the brain of your actual neighbors and ask those questions and get that, as well as, but also if you can hang out at a brewery, that is another option. And sometimes a better one. So awesome. Well, we are right at 8:59. I really appreciate everybody attending this evening and giving us an hour of your time, whether you're West Coast, East Coast, or in between. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar. I'll probably send out the chat as well, since it's been so active. So the transcript of the chat and the resources that we talked about during this evening's webinar. If you have any questions or feedback, you can just respond right back to that message, and hope to see you at another event soon. And thank you so much to our panelists. Really appreciate you all being here, Catherine, Grace, and Janelle. It was great to have your expertise.
Thanks, Annie. Bye, everyone.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was fantastic. That was great. I took a lot of notes from that too. Obviously, some things that I've ran into in the solar world that I know from selling solar for like the last 10 years. also some good stuff. I wish Arizona had a better co-op type situation, but it is what it is, you know. I left up the NAR sustainability report link up top so you guys can check that out. Here's also the code for the PV value site they were talking about. If you're trying to figure out how much your house is worth with solar, or how much your solar is worth rather on your home, this is a good link to check out. But let me see here. I want to. You guys have been super. I mean, I know this was only supposed to be an hour, and I started a little bit early because I knew there'd be some situations, but this, yeah. So just to remind you, we had this thing streaming on multiple things. So we pulled in the Zoom, but we had this on YouTube, nextdoor.com. We did an event, Facebook groups, Facebook Live, Instagram. I don't know if it was on Instagram actually. That sounds too advanced for me, but I think even one of my guys had it on Twitch. That's kind of cool. I don't know anything about Twitch. Apparently, I thought that was for gamers only. But yeah, let me kind of go through kind of the basics here. So if you're already a solar homeowner, sit tight for one second. But if you're not, lease versus loan was something that was talked about multiple times, and you're going to get a lot of different opinions about lease versus loan. Me personally, I think that solar is great. It's a really good option for someone to do because the general idea, and it's not a cookie cutter situation. It's not for everybody. It's not going to work out the same way. Every homeowner is not going to get the same benefit. Roof sizing, energy usage, these things can be so far apart that you need this much roof to cover all of this much power, but you don't have this much roof. So the offsets are going to be different. You're going to see your neighbors with different types of bills than yours. When you went solar makes a huge difference. But lease versus loan, I would say that some solar is better than no solar. If you are going to do a lease, though, I do highly recommend 0% escalators. They mentioned about how there was some difficulty in selling a home with with an escalator. And the reason for that is because if the utility company does stop for some reason or another and your escalating rate goes up, now your solar is more expensive than the utility rate. So what I recommend you do, and I made as many of these little captions as I could for notes just to have anyone for the replay that may have had this on mute or something and was hoping for some better captions or something. Is find a lease that's lower than the average cost of electricity for your home. So to simply do that, all you have to do is take your total bill. I want to make sure I'm doing this right because I'm not good at math. So let's just say my bill was $1,700. No, let's do this way. I know what it is. So take your total usage. Say you use 2,100 kilowatt hours or 21,000 kilowatt hours and divide that by $2,100 a year. That would be a 10-cent cost per kilowatt hour type situation there, right? So that's one way to know kind of what you're looking at as far as your power usage goes. Well, 2,100. Anyway, but you get the idea there. So you want to be targeting a less than your cost per kilowatt hour system when it comes to looking at your home. So if you spent $2,100 a year on power, divide that by 21,000 in this case, you get 10 cents a kilowatt hour is what that would look like. So go below that. If you can get a 0% rate below that, then you're perfect. Not many people in Arizona are going to be seeing that low of an electricity bill. That was just an example because I'm bad at math. But yeah, lease versus loan. If you are going to own the system, if you are going to finance the system, paying it off might be the situation there, because you're the next homeowner's coming into a house without a power bill. And when I say not a power bill, I mean a ginormous chunk of it has been paid off. That's what solar's essentially for. Is it's an investment into your power. The one thing that we have to have, because you have your mortgage and then your next big power bill or your next big bill is the power bill. In that situation, you want to lock that in. So if you can eliminate that for the next homeowner and they're coming in like, yeah, okay, I have a $30 bill left over with APS, for example, That's super sexy. Like that's very, very attractive situation. But if you just went solar a year ago, that might not be the best option. And they mentioned this, and I'm glad they did. But a lot of these solar lenders do have assumptions, and they'll take that out of escrow. So they'll say, okay, let's hold off on this for a second. Let's close this transaction down so you're qualifying for your mortgage, your loan, your next payment on this house, so you could buy the house. And then they say, okay, cool, now give us a call. Now that we've closed on the house, now that escrow has been closed, now that you own the house, now that you have taken title and deed of the home, let's transfer the solar into your name. And then they do the situation. They mentioned that either with a lease or a loan, doesn't matter. If you can qualify for a mortgage, you're going to be able to qualify for the solar. The low entry that it takes to get a solar financing is super, super easy. It is what it is, but keep in mind that an escalating rate does make it a little bit more difficult to explain that to people. Which brings me to the next point, which is realtors, man. Realtors. Find an appraiser who understands green energy on homes. Find an appraiser who understands green factors, and that could be anything. So it doesn't have to just be solar. They should be able to understand SEER ratings and BTU, things like that for appliances and the air conditioners and furnaces. If you live in one of those communities where that's more popular. Understand the windows that people install on things. Even garage doors are more insulated now, and that's a green factor on homes. Know the power bills, know what's going on, but have an appraiser and just call the lender. It's super simple to say, hey, the guy you're sending out, the guy or girl you're sending out, is that person green energy certified? Do they understand green energy homes? I have a green energy home. It's a special category home. Do the work, realtors. Do the work, right? If you're a real estate agent and you're just like, oh man, solar is hard to sell, it's really not. You just have to actually do your job. And I understand that maybe I'll ruffle some feathers, but real estate, being an agent, congratulations, you took the 90 whatever hour course and now you're a part of a brokerage. There's not really much. Your job is easy, so start doing your job, right? Pull these bills, pull the data, understand the utility company you're working with, work with your seller to get them the best deal possible. Explain to the buyer if you do know solar, because every buyer agent that I run into, and to give you my idea, I bring the buyers. I have a pool of solar buyers for my solar sellers, so I work both sides of the situation, dual agency. But if you're not in that position, if you're not in that situation, then explain to the buying agent how that home is valuable. Explain that solar situation so they can explain it to their buyers and make it make sense. Lay out the bills, research the utility companies, show the trends, because with APS for specific, since 2013, it hasn't been a steady. Obviously, the bar graph has wiggled around a little bit, but since 2013 to today, there's been an average of 5.6 cents provable, 5.6 cents, percent raise on the power bills. APS just released their thing for the end of the year saying they want an 11 to a 24% increase on their bills. What is that? 15 to 20 to $30? Who knows? It really depends on how much power your seller is using, or the homeowner is using to get that number, to understand what that looks like. But these are just some things that I wanted to really cap on and to show off. That the realtors need to be doing is show the trends, get a good appraiser, make sure they have green knowledge. Batteries, like I said, doesn't really add a lot on my next meeting. Doesn't really add a lot of value, but batteries are becoming, they're the next thing in Arizona because we're trending. Our utility companies are killing solar programs. They don't really like, they don't really like solar as much. It's not a big value add. However, as we go down the line and as utility, drops at the end of the month, and we'll probably take this recording and send it out at the end of the year as well. But at the end of the month, the buyback is dropping for APS, how much they buy back solar for, and they're raising the rates at the end of the year. So this will be a good video to recirculate. But net energy metering is dead in Arizona. There's probably like one utility company that still tries to do it, but barely. But true one-to-one net energy metering, like they explained, is not available here. Through for solar customers. Yeah. So as these buybacks drop, you're going to want to store that power, and that's where batteries are going to start to make some sense. But that's pretty much it. I'm so excited. If anyone hopped on this thing, like I said, we stream this in multiple places, so I'll try to get all the chats together and send them out like they're going to do. that's super smart. I didn't think to compile all that stuff together, but I leave you with this. If you don't know, if you don't have solar up on your roof, go to solar101.online. Just slam this QR code here. The reason why is because with solar energy, if you don't already have it, you need to learn about it. And so I created a 4-module course called Solar 101: What to Know Before You Go Solar. The situation there is it's really designed to teach you everything you need to know about solar, because as you look into these situations, and as you want to try to lower your power bill, you're going to want to be in a situation where you understand solar, and you want to be able to understand, is it going to be the right decision for me? Is it going to be the thing that makes a lot of sense for me? And that's just kind of how you want to level it out. So Solar 101, what to know before you go solar. It's completely free. Just register for it, learn more about it. If you already have a solar quote, and it's not, too late, guys, to look into solar before the net energy metering thing, or not the RCP rate drop, the APS buyback. If you already have a quote, I recommend you jump on this. Like I said, I'm trying to build my own little solar co-op situation, but my idea there is just get people the best value solar, and the best system at the best cost, and really understand and educate these people, these homeowners like you, and we can make things make sense. But yeah, the idea there is, if you know that your system's right, you've done the Solar 101 course, you know that your system is sized correctly, it's built correctly, and you're just looking for the best value out there, click on the QR code here, click on the link. What we're going to end up doing is just saying, hey, let's verify your system's good. Let's make sure that you're going to be happy with it. And then if you are happy with it, let's get you the best pricing. And you can call it undercutting, you can call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you matter more than these solar energy consultants. And not that you matter more than them, but this is a lifelong, not lifelong, but it's a long process that you're going to have on your home. And it's going to go beyond you. It's going to go with your next homeowner. It's going to go with the person who moves in after that one. It's going to go into the person who moves in after that one. So solar is not a commodity. It's not a Toyota Corolla. It's not something that you just buy every 2 years and trade it out. It's something that you actually want to work on your home, right? It's something you actually want to be a quality project, like a roof, like a deck, like a pool, like windows on your home. You don't want to cut corners or get the cheapest thing ever. So what we do, and like I said, is I have so many different industries that I work in. I'm in real estate, I'm an investor, I'm in solar, I'm in business consulting, I invest in businesses as well. Solar is not my main source of anything, right? It's my side hobby. It's what I do to help people advance. And the reason I bring that up is because, like, hey, like, if I'm able to help you get the best value in your solar, then that's great. I'm also a green realtor. So I hope that, when the time comes, like, hey, the guy who helped me with my solar, if you're one of my customers and you're watching this, congratulations, it's super awesome. But if you're like, hey, this is the guy that helped me go solar, can he help me also sell my house? He understands my system, he understands the utilities, he's helped me save a bunch of money. Can he do more than that? And absolutely I can. So click on this QR code as well. Put yourself in a position where it's like, all right, the guy who helped me go solar is the guy who's going to help sell my home. And if not, when you click on this code, there is a way to say, like, find other green realtors in my area. There's about 180 of us green designated realtors, and I'm glad they mentioned that. But there's about another 180 of us. Well, I'm part of the 180, but in the state of Arizona that are green designated realtors. And what that really means is that we are in a position where we understand solar, we understand green energy, we understand green factors for homes, we understand how to talk to the appraisers, we understand how to work with the buying agent, we understand how to explain this to people. We understand everything from top to bottom. And then my only thing that I've sold solar for so long, that I've been with utility companies, seeing the trend, understanding how this works, working with all these solar companies, these big installers, that I can really help leverage that information for you. So even if I wasn't your solar guy, I want to give you that information. Even if you don't sell your home with me, let me help your agent be smart and help you sell your home better. Because that's just where I want to put you in a position, is how much value can I give to you? How can I be a go-giver? How can I make your life a little bit easier? How can I make that transition to the next thing even better for you? Yeah, I know I gotta go. So I leave you with that. I don't think there's any more information. Yeah, check out the codes there, the QR code. If you need a green realtor, click on that. I think that's really it, though. I'm so happy we were able to do this, guys. If you got any value out of this, like I said, if you registered for it, I'm going to send out the video for this so you guys have it. I'm going to put it up on my YouTube. That's one of the reasons why we streamed it to so many places, is that it just saves it there automatically. That way you guys can kind of see it. But thank you so much for registering for this. Thank you so much for sticking around if you're able to. The people who weren't able to make it the full way through, I'm going to send all this video stuff to them because I don't want them to miss out on any value. I know that I went long on my specific part of this, but I'm really, really excited to do this, and I hope we can do this again. This was super fun. And I'm really, really, really happy to do that. But again, my name is Jordan Tackman. I'm your friend in real estate, in solar, in business, and I just want you guys to know that you guys are blessed. You guys are awesome. You guys are amazing. You matter, and I hope that you guys take that away and you bring that energy into the life that you guys live, into your families, into your communities, and you're able to lift other people up. But again, my name is Jordan Tackman. Thank you so much, guys. You guys can find me. This is my phone number. You can get me at solarhome@jtack.live, or you can find me on Instagram at jtsellsaz. But I hope you guys stay blessed, guys, and take care.